Coach Dave Patino. Questions for Coach Patino?
Obviously, you have a large challenge on your hands now that you get into the game prep mode for Clemson. Kind of what have you seen looking at them on film?
I mean, it's been the same story since we started watching them. They're defending national champions, so obviously they have good players and a good scheme and a great program. And we have to be less worried about what they're doing and more worried about what we're doing at this stage in our development. Everything's about us trying to get a little bit better every day. And I know it sounds a little bit cliche and that type of thing, but when you're in the infancy of what you're doing offensively and trying to put the whole plan together, it really is more about us than who we're seeing. We have a pretty good idea of who they are and what they are, and we have a plan together, and then we'll just keep pushing forward with it.
How do you evaluate where you guys are as far as the pace that you want these guys to go, I guess, in a game time situation?
Pace as far as being the pace at which we're going to play?
Yeah.
At the end of practice today, their tongues are dragging. You know what I mean? So, we were pushing the tempo pretty well. The defense was sucking wind. Everybody was, kind of gassed. And, really for me, the evaluation is at the end of practice, do the guys have anything left in the tank, or they empty their tank? You guys, if you're around practice, so we never condition, right? Everything is, because of the pace that we try to play at, those guys are knocked out by the time practice is over. So, I kind of have like a feel when I'm standing there that, hey, this is going too slow, or, we're going too fast. There's a whole thing like, do you want to go really fast and then just be and run bad plays and, not be efficient, or do you want to try to push the tempo so that you can be in the best plays you can possibly be in? And there's a fine line between that. Like sometimes some teams go so fast that they run bad plays, or they're in bad looks, or that type of thing. So, we want to kind of be a little bit of a mix of both, but I'm happy with what our pace is right now.
It looks like in order to do what you want to do with some of your personnel packages, you had to develop some good depth at running back and receiver. Do you feel you've sort of reached that point?
I think we have. The running backs have been a very deep spot, and a few guys were like dinged up here and there. They had the camp mix up, so some of the younger guys had gotten in, some of the older guys had folded back in. I just think that you got to be as multiple as you possibly can. We've talked about that in the past, and I think that we're ready to do that. I think guys, their learning curve has really escalated, so that they know more than just their own position, so that they can go out and do a bunch of different things, which will be pretty beneficial for us moving forward.
The one team that's had success against Clemson most consistently in the league was Syracuse, who play at the fastest tempo of really anyone in the league. Is that something you study as a coach? And they obviously are good at calling good plays and that quick tempo, and I imagine that's...
Hopefully I could call the same good plays that they're calling. They're a good example of a team that plays with some tempo, and we've watched a bunch of different tapes, and a lot of the teams do different things. They have different approaches against them. Florida State had some good thoughts, some good playing. North Carolina State had some good looks. So we've gone through the whole game, and we've gone back 2 years. We've gone, we've watched them against Alabama. We watched them against Notre Dame. We watched them, pretty much across the board. I can pretty much name every clip on the cut up by now. So, we have a general idea of who they are, who they want to be, and hopefully we have a good plan set up for it.
From the outside looking at your team, there's the perception that you're making this big drastic change in offensive system and philosophy, I guess. But football is football. So for you as a coach, does it feel that way, that there's such a big drastic change?
Well, it is true. We are making a big jump. And that is one piece of it. I think the biggest thing that we've always talked about is you have to run, block, catch, and throw, right? So if you could do those things well, we've won games lining up in the eye, the wishbone, the run and shoot, whatever. We've won games over the last 26, 27 years in different offenses, different looks. So those four fundamental things you have to be able to do. The biggest thing I think is that when you come out of a triple option offense, you're just not used to all of the multiple things that you're going to get, and all the things that you have to understand, all the different looks, all the different blitzes, all the different fronts and coverages, and where does the ball go, why does the ball go, how do you check the protection, because those things aren't ingrained in that type of offense. So even if you went from one spread offense to another spread offense, you generally have, okay, when in this protection versus this set, this is kind of what you do. And then they kind of fall back on it and they say, oh yeah, that's what we call that this last year. You know, there is none of that now, right? It's like, yeah, we've never seen that before. So the learning curve is a little bit steeper that way, especially for the quarterback and the O-line. Just understanding, you know, the coverage and how it pertains to everything that we're doing, you know, per play.
I guess the run, block, catch, and throw. I guess the big questions are catching and throwing.
Yeah.
Where are you on that, you think?
I mean, you know, when you watch us practice right now, you'd never know that we were an option team just, you know, 6 months ago.
Okay.
You know, we look like a fast-paced spread team that, you know, can move the ball around and throw it pretty efficiently. We threw it really well in the scrimmage. I want to say, I don't know off the top of my head, I want to say maybe 18 explosive throws or something, which would be 15 or more yards in the scrimmage. So, you know, we made a bunch of plays throwing it in the scrimmage. You know, our completion percentage was almost 70% in the scrimmage. So I thought we did some good things there. And then you just got to keep building on it.
I guess there's not much recent precedent for this because most of the option teams now are teams that have been there for a long time. Is there anybody you've been able to cite
I
or
think
call or
there
talk
was,
to?
There was something that came up like, you know, what was it, way back, Coach Spurrier somehow was involved in it. I was like, wow, that's pretty good company to be in. But, you know, normally those offenses just move, you know, they kind of hire the same kind of, you know, the same tree of guys and they run kind of the same things. And but, you know, we're so far past that now. You know, in the spring that was an issue. Like, you know, guys are still like wanting to line up in a 4-point stance and come off and just, you know, cut people and, you know, run the ball on the edge and run the triple. I mean, we're so far past that now that our understanding of what we're doing is so far past that, you know, I don't even really keep falling back to that.
This could be a reach, but now that you've gone through the spring, gone through the fall camp, how has this job and taking over this transition in the full force that you are, how has that changed your, maybe not mindset as an offensive coordinator, but do you feel like you are different because of kind of what has happened over the past 6 months?
Well, I think I've grown a lot and just, you know, from a patient standpoint. Really, I mean, you know, you can ask my wife about that for sure. But just from a teaching standpoint, I think I'm a better teacher even now than I was, and you know, after 28 years of being a college football coach, I think that's something to be said, because it was such a ground zero approach when we first started this to, you know, general understanding of all the things that are going to be entailed in this offense, and you know, really having to, you know, teach, hey, you have to be in this split. No, this is your landmark. These are our splits. This is what you have to do on this play. Really teaching everybody, coaching the coaches, coaching the guys, you know, coaching the quarterback. Where if you have a guy that's a bunch of veteran guys, and you go in, like when we made the switch to Temple, they were a bunch of veteran guys, right? They had a lot of guys who had played. They had just won 10 games back-to-back years. They were ready to go. We just kind of plugged it in, put it in our terminology, and said, you know, hey, this is what it is. So there wasn't as much just ground zero teaching, but I think that's been really cool. I've had a lot of fun with that.
In terms of your offensive play calling, are you a script guy, or is it a feel thing, or?
I'll have a script, but you know, by the time the game comes, I've got the script pretty much memorized, you know, and I'm much more of a call it by feel of the game type of guy. You know, when you're in the box, it gives you a little bit different perspective because you can actually sit back and have, you know, a greater overview of what's going on the field. So I've called it on the field. I've called it from the box. You know, but I'm not a guy that has to look at it and say, on 3rd down and 5, we're going to run this play. You know what I mean? We've run the same stuff pretty much for, you know, 20 years. So I have a general idea, and I think the one thing that I do have a pretty good feel for is the flow of the game and what the defense is trying to do to us, and then be able to pull something, you know, that may work against that look. You know, sometimes the coaches are like, where did that come from? You know, I was like, I don't know, let's just run it. We should be doing it.
Going into this game, you have a run-pass mix in mind?
I mean, if you look at us historically, we're pretty much a 50-50 mix, you know. So we'll always try to be in that area, and especially on 1st and 2nd down, just, you know, trying to keep guys off balance. And, you know, like we've always said, you can, just because you're going to run the ball on 1st down doesn't mean you have to line up with 2 tight ends on the field or be in an I formation. You could run the quarterback, you could run option, you could run the mid zone, or whatever run play it is. And if you're throwing it, it could be an RPO, or it could be, it's, you know, play action, drop back and throw it as far as you can.
Right.
You know, so I think a good mix within the run-pass ratio is critical. You know, to try to keep guys off balance.
Coach Choice has mentioned that he knows that his group, they can all run the ball, but he wants them to do the little things. Have some of the other younger guys like Dante and Jamius, have they picked up on some of that small stuff to where they can be real contributors?
The biggest issue with running backs, young running backs, is pass protection. And it's not even physically, it's just generally understanding who to block, and then when the picture moves, who to block. And it's a communication between the quarterback, the offensive line, and the running back. So every time that there's a sack, everybody says, oh, it's the offensive line, or the quarter, it's not. It's the quarterback has to get us in the right protection. The quarterback's got to get rid of the ball. The wide receivers have to adjust their routes, and then the running backs have to be able to fit into what the protection is. So if you're changing protection and the offensive line is pointing people, it's like a chorus line. Everybody's got to be in the same step, or you're going to give things up. So that's been the biggest transition for those guys, is being able to sit back there, see the big picture, understand what they're getting, communicate with everybody else, and then be able to get up and get on the right guy, which, early in camp we were not very good at. And I think we've made probably the best strides that we've made has been in our pass pro.
In terms of the above the line, like Coach Collins said, I think 3 quarterbacks he felt like were above the line. It's a little different than subbing a running back or whatever. Like, what's kind of your philosophy in terms of rotating guys and how that would look in a game? And
I mean, ideally you'd have one dude that's just your guy, right? And he can do everything. He can run, he can throw, he can take control of the offense, he can check the plays, he can do the whole thing. We're still grinding to find that guy, and I've been really, really happy with all of their development. They're so much better just from an X's and O's standpoint than they were even in the beginning of camp. Just being able to do the things that we ask them to do. And their plate is full. When you play quarterback in this offense, your plate is full. It's not like somebody else is going to take the burden off of you. You have to be able to understand the run game, because you have to check the run game, you have to check the pass game, you have to identify the blitzes, you have to change the blitzes, you have to know where to go with the ball. So there's a plate full of stuff that they have to understand. But our guys are legitimate weapons to do specific things. Like, these are guys who are elite athletes in the ACC. So, if you might have a package of things for guys, you might have 2 guys on the field, 3 guys on the field, no guys on the field. I mean, I'm not really into, hey, one guy's going to come in and then the next guy's going to come in the next play and, shuttling guys in and out. But if you put packages together for these guys, then, you can weaponize those guys on game day.
With a guy with Tobias and Jay, I mean, you could literally line all 3 of them up in the backfield with Lucas and have. So is that kind of fun? But I mean, just imagine that's fun for you as an offensive coordinator, that you have that versatility of athlete, even if you don't have maybe the guy that you.
I mean, those two guys are elite athletes. You watch them just take off and run. The play breaks down and they're gone. And we had one in the scrimmage the other day where we broke a run and Christian Campbell was chasing us from the backside and Lucas was running with the ball. Lucas is probably the slowest of the 3, and he's still really athletic. And he broke one and he ran away from Christian Campbell, who's really fast. So their ability to do that, you're like, oh, maybe you could put these type of things in. And then, you watch those other guys just go through. We had this thing called the Sunday circuit where everybody on the offense will block, catch, and have ball protection. And then you watch those guys catch the ball and you're like, wow, those guys are pretty good too. So it is cool to have options, that's for sure.
Anything else for Coach Patton?